to minimize or deny what we feel, is a distortion of what it means to be image bearers of God.
Because I think vulnerability breeds intimacy.
Girl, stop. You can be honest about that.
No wonder we get hurt.
Oh, like it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility.
It's almost like to be honest means to invite conflict.
Yes, hurts. I've hurt myself when I haven't been honest.
Amen. So, hey, beautiful people, I'm Tina Morales.
And I'm Kiera Johnson.
And welcome to the Stories That Shape Us podcast, where we dive deep into the stories that have shaped who we are and who we're becoming.
We are so thrilled to have you join us. We are here to engage openly in hard conversations around faith, identity, relationships, and so much more.
Yes, if you want to peek into the journeys of healing and becoming, then we invite you to listen in on the conversation and leave transformed. Get ready for thought-provoking conversation, a whole lot of heart, and join us on this journey through the stories that shape us. Hey, real quick, are you sick and tired of getting into the same fights with your partner over and over again? Are you sick of feeling misunderstood and disconnected? If so, I get it, which is why I created an ebook just for you. In Crushing Conflict, you're going to get a guide about how to get out of the chaos. You're going to learn why you keep getting stuck in the same cycle over and over again. You're going to learn how to get unstuck with several practical tools. And you're going to learn how you can create lasting change in your relationship. If that's you, I invite you to click the link in the description below and grab your copy today. I hope that blesses you. Yes, we do. My mic is on.
All right, we're ready.
We are ready.
All righty.
Good day.
We're back.
We are back.
I'm excited about today. Today we're talking about honesty, and I'm super excited because listen, when Tina recommends a book, y'all, get it. It's changing my life and inspired this episode about honesty. It kind of also ties to feelings, this quote too, but it's just honest. I'm gonna read you a quote from the book. It said, "To feel is to be human. To minimize or deny what we feel is a distortion of what it means to be image bearers of God. To the degree that we are unable to express our emotions, we remain impaired in our ability to love God, others, and ourselves well."
Yikes.
That's like
to the what?
To the degree that we are unable to express our emotions, we remain impaired in our ability to love God, others, and ourselves well.
Amen.
So strongly tied to feelings, of course, but being able to express just these feelings and this honesty, this underlying theme of honesty, it literally is changing my life. Like even reading this book in my relationships, I've just been more real every day. And everyday conversations, I'm like, hey, I'm feeling this. This is making me uncomfortable. This scares me. I'm stressed. Whereas normally me, myself, I'm going to brush it under the rug, grit and bear. I grit and bear a lot in this book. I'm going through it. More to come. It's amazing. So that's what inspired this.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. And part of what I like to do is so when we're talking about things like this, I think it's so important to recognize or kind of reflect on like, okay, well, where does this come from for me? Right? Like where did this start? How come I maybe am not or was not as honest about what I was feeling before, or what I was dealing with or experiencing? So have you like reflected on that a little bit in terms of?
I think part of it is sometimes environment as you're growing up, as you're doing life, if you don't know how to or haven't experienced healthy conflict resolution. For me, I haven't always. And so in response to that, I learned to brush aside my feelings, to brush aside, just not be honest about where I'm at. Because I'm like, this would disrupt peace, false peace.
Yeah.
This would, I just want to avoid this feeling. I want this negative conflict to end because I don't know how to do that healthy. I don't know how to have that healthy conflict, or I don't want to get hurt, or I don't want to hurt. So I'm going to just cover up the honest feelings and try it. Just do tomorrow. Just go through my to-do list. Do tomorrow. Yeah.
You know what's interesting though too, right? Like this is cool. This is not where I thought we were gonna go, but I love it. Like there's this relationship between honesty and conflict. Like what you're describing is like, it's almost like to be honest means to invite conflict.
Yes, that's my really yep.
And how I think that can be like a obviously like that's learned, right? Like that's something that we've learned is, okay, well, if I'm honest about how I feel, then that means there's going to be a problem, or there's going to be a conflict, or there's going to be discord in the environment or with the people that I'm around. And so what I've learned is to keep the peace means to not voice my true, honest experience. Ooh. This could be a whole conversation around conflict management.
Actually.
Right. But I think the thing that comes to my mind when we're talking about honesty is I think that there is a difference between being honest and just being like harsh.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, because I think sometimes how we deliver our honesty can lead to conflict in some form or fashion.
Right.
But sometimes even just the existence of our honest experience, if it's different from someone else,
it can get, because kindness isn't something I would say I've struggled with. Like, you can be kind and be honest, but to your point, it's still in different friendships, relationships, whatever, with family, if I've had the experience of I was honest and it just was distorted, or I was made to feel bad, or so you just learn. I learned to, like you said, keep that false peace going, get up, do it tomorrow. And so what does that mean then for like you and to kind of keep that false peace externally? What does that then mean for you internally? As you start kind of suffocating underneath that false peace, I think it'll come out eventually. I mean, you get to a pressurized enough situation, and then it can explode. Within that relationship or within that situation. But it's like suffocating. It's like you're not allowing yourself to heal, to like journey properly, to do relationship properly when you're bearing your honest feelings. And I mean, I think as I think about that, I almost kind of hear this sense of I think keeping the peace externally causes internal chaos, internal tension, internal conflict. I feel like that's even something that like we can experience in our body. Maybe we're not consciously aware of. But like our body maybe just holds all of that in. It's a burden. It's heavy. It hurts. I've hurt myself when I haven't been honest with people around me or myself, or it hurts. It's just prolonging something that I think comes out eventually.
Because it will.
It will. Yeah, absolutely. We're human.
And I think that's where we can I think this is why it is important to be honest. Because if we're not honest about what we're experiencing, I think that actually causes more damage down the line. Right? Like it's almost like this temporary relief, but long-term pain.
Very much.
Right? Versus when we're honest, if it is going to bring up conflict, that could be temporary pain.
Right.
But long-term relief or long-term health in terms of like how that relationship is functioning.
I think with your honest, you can get to resolution sooner.
Amen.
So it's like not fun conflict. Even healthy conflict isn't fun, but you can get to resolution just a lot sooner. A lot sooner.
Because honesty brings clarity.
It does. If you can be honest, like when you're in conflict, if you can be honest with someone, say, this is where I'm at, you can pull out their true intention. And you can get to where we need to be a lot sooner than if I'm making assumptions or keeping that false peace and just letting like resentment build up and resentment. And then they resent you for maybe acting differently because you're not honest. And then it combusts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of things in terms of like dangers of dishonesty.
Yeah.
And I think there's maybe we should make a distinction between being dishonest and lying.
Yeah.
You know? I think this is something, because I don't know if we're talking about dishonesty. I think dishonesty or lying, I think those are probably the same thing.
Yeah.
I think that's being intentional about
trying to be deceitful, or I think, so we're not talking about that. We're talking about maybe not being open, like honesty, not being open, forthcoming. Yeah. Not being real. Like that.
Yeah, it's almost like the opposite of that is just like withholding or stuffing.
Withholding, yeah.
Or dismissing. I mean, we could do all these things, right?
Yes.
We could withhold, we could dismiss, we could stuff, we could minimize. We could, I mean, it could look like so many different ways.
Right.
Honesty, well, so this is where I have, I like make a distinction between certain things. So for me, honesty is I ask you a question, you tell me the truth.
Okay.
Okay. Like that for me is what honesty is.
Yep.
Transparency is when you tell me something I didn't ask of you. Okay. And you're open about it. You're forthcoming. Like you're allowing me to see inside of you without me asking you.
Yes. Okay.
I can see inside of your thoughts, or
it's a nice distinction.
You're sharing your thoughts or you're sharing your emotions. But vulnerability, I think, is also different.
Oh no, it's actually good that you're
So vulnerability, I think you're letting me, and I think you're being transparent in your vulnerability, but you're also taking a risk. It's like emotional exposure with risk. In the sense of, I may not like what I hear. And so you're being vulnerable with me. Yeah. When you're doing that. Whereas transparency, you could share something with me, but it not be risky. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yep. So you could just share something with me that I am not going to have a problem with, but I also didn't have to ask you about. Yep. You're just being transparent. Yep. I think the vulnerability is the piece
that's what I was just about to say.
That's where we want to get.
Because honesty is almost maybe you hope to have that at a bare minimum. But I think when I was just speaking, I was thinking in my mind, well, no, it's still honesty sometimes. Because if someone would be like, are you mad at me? Yeah. Like the infamous videos of all the men asking their wives, are you mad? And she's like, no. Like, that's not honest. No. Not with the intent of being deceitful. I don't think the intention's there for deceit. I think the intention is more despairing. I don't.
Just like, yeah.
Yeah. And so that is part of it. It's like you need that. But to take like relationships to the next level, that vulnerability is paramount. Essential.
Yeah. Because I think vulnerability breeds intimacy.
Girl, stop. That's great. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. After conversations and moments where I've allowed myself to be vulnerable, even through conflict or just because I just wanted to share something of myself or share, my relationship with that person goes to another world after that conversation or that honest experience. Like that is so real.
Yeah. Like I don't think that we can have truly intimate relationships. One, if we're not honest with ourselves.
Right.
Two, if we are not willing to be transparent with another person, right? Just transparent about what's going on in my life, right? Like you don't have to dig it out of me. I'm just kind of sharing with you.
Yeah.
But then two, vulnerable. Like I think we go deeper and deeper the more we do these things. Like honesty is like one level, transparency is another, and then vulnerability is like, I'm taking a risk here to get closer.
Yeah.
And how you respond to that is going to impact our intimacy level. It's going to impact how much more vulnerable I'm going to be.
Yes.
This goes into our trust conversation.
That's what I was about to say. Trust, relationships. My mind is going. It's like, oh, my brain. It's crashing. Like, yes, it does breed. I've lived this so much. Like, in relationships, I can be a great listener. I'm a great listener, but I won't give you much. Like, sometimes I'll just say, I will not offer it. And it literally has been transformative for my life when I've been willing to give as much as that person's giving to me.
Ooh. Yeah. It becomes mutual.
It does. Even you as a friend, Tina, I just pour myself, I'm just giving. And it's such a fulfilling friendship. And like, that's not something I've practiced in the past with many people. Not that you should be vulnerable with everyone, but I just...
We'll talk about that.
Yes. But, oh my God, when I have done that, my relationships are just, you're fuller. It does take trust. They're connected.
Absolutely.
But for that, to do relationship well, that dependency on each other, it requires vulnerability. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I love what you said about like, you can't be vulnerable with everybody, because I do think this is a big part of this conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So like, kind of piggybacking off that last episode, we're talking about trust. I do think it's important that, like, because I think we've all been around people, right, who share everything.
Right.
They're just so...
Social media, it's all there.
Yeah. They're just so honest. It almost feels like that shouldn't go with it. But they're just...
like an open book. Like,
so
truly.
Open, so vulnerable. Because at the end of the day, it is still vulnerable. But I do think that vulnerability without parameters is unhealthy.
Yes.
I think it's dangerous, not only for yourself, but for the person on the receiving end.
Right.
Oh, tell me what's going on.
Oh, yeah. No, it very much could be. It could be. Just an example.
Please.
My brain. I don't want to speak out of context, but I feel like when you just said this, I thought of like the countless oversharers on my feed, and they'll share something that's so deeply vulnerable, and without the proper context, the way I receive that leaves me feeling all types of crazy. And just as an example of how when you are giving of yourself, you have to do it responsibly.
Yes.
And that just made me think of that. I was like, definitely.
Because I think anything without parameters is unsafe. Right? So like, even in our vulnerability, when we're practicing vulnerability with people, this is why I think there's levels, right? Like, when I'm in a relationship with someone and I'm being honest with them, that's one level. I'm sharing honestly, like maybe they ask me a question and I'm just being honest with my answer, right? How they receive that, how they respond to that gives me information. It tells me, okay, maybe I can be transparent with them. Right, about something next. Yep. And so then I do that. Depending on how that goes, then I can be vulnerable. But I think sometimes we start with vulnerability before we've gone through this stage. Yeah, before we've built the trust with someone. Right. And then no wonder we get hurt. Because we haven't established healthy, safe parameters with somebody. Yes. And that takes time. Right. But I think if we come from, and I'm telling on myself, right? So like back in the day, I used to be just like, and I still am an open book, but like I used to be so vulnerable with people, just expecting that they would be so vulnerable with me back. Like I would just jump into intimacy. Okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I just want to get down to your heart and core, and I'm going to open everything to you. Yeah. And then for them, maybe it's like, whoa, they weren't expecting that. Or I was expecting something with my vulnerability and then I didn't get that back. Right. And so then that becomes like makes you less, start to put a wall up a little bit. Right. Yeah. which is kind of like we go backwards.
Yeah, you retreat. Yeah.
Right, in terms of relationship. And so, and again, telling on myself, that comes from a history of trauma, right? Of different types of trauma in your life, right? When there's almost like a desperation to connect, because of feeling so disconnected in your life, you're like, I'm just going to share it all.
Right.
I don't know if you heard the term trauma bonding. So it's like you just bond with someone off of the pain and the hurt, right? And so that is unhealthy. Like, let's just put that out there, completely unhealthy. Because healthy relationships are aware of personal limits and boundaries. I have limits and boundaries about how much I can handle and how much I can be there for you. You have personal limits and boundaries about how much you can handle and how much you can be there for me.
Right.
And that is okay.
That is okay. I think I needed to hear that. I think more people need to hear that. That is okay.
Yeah.
You can be honest about that.
You can be honest about that.
You can be honest about that. I think sometimes it's hard to get to vulnerability. Again, second chapter of this book, Know Thyself so that you may know God.
Yes.
And I don't think some of us know ourselves, or we buried things so much, or even been so dishonest even with ourselves. Like just try not to, we don't face the truth. We just bury it, put it away. But we have honest reactions to things in our lives, but we never addressed it. We never addressed the root of it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I don't think we know what the root is. I think you have to go through a process of knowing yourself, which I'm going through the book, making sure that I do. Yeah. I think you have to go through that to be vulnerable. Ooh. It's sometimes hard because, like, I say there's a story of his wife's going out of town. He has like a reaction to that, right? I mean, he hasn't been honest about his reaction to that. Yeah. But then to be vulnerable and work through that with his wife, he's got to get there.
Oof. To get there, having to be honest and vulnerable with yourself.
Yeah, and say, why am I like this? What happened when I was a kid? What was that relationship? I think his relationship with his mom that drove feelings of abandonment that he had to address and be honest about, know himself, be honest about, and then be able to get to that place of vulnerability with his wife. And that's hard when you don't know yourself.
Oof. Hard when you don't know yourself, and it's also hard when you're and I'm about to get into like poetic language, but it's like, I think it's hard when you are so afraid of like walking through the dark spaces in your own life.
Right.
Like we can't be honest with ourselves. We can't be honest with ourselves. I said that right. Yeah. We can't be honest with ourselves if we're not willing to go into the places in our life, the experiences in our life that were hard and that hurt.
Right.
If we don't do that, the hard and the hurt that we're going to inevitably go through in life, because it comes, is going to be that much more difficult. It's almost like we're climbing an even taller mountain. Yeah. Because we haven't gone deep into our own valley.
And I hear that, I think of what keeps someone from doing that. And sometimes it's hard. I think we talked about the echo chamber of your own brain. You wake up with your mind, your thoughts, and it could just sort of repeat. And it's like, sometimes we just need help. You need community, you need loving people, you need therapy, you need help. To get out of that valley. It's hard to always pull yourself up out of it. I know that.
And I don't think that we're meant to.
Yeah. You're not meant to. I mean, sure, you can have a superhero feat and do that, but you're not meant to.
No.
Do that.
Other people in your life, I think, offer you a perspective that maybe you haven't seen before. And I think that's what makes it not easier, but more doable maybe. Right. To be honest with yourself. Because you have people who are willing to give you another perspective.
Right.
You have people who are willing to be honest with you.
Right.
Right? Like that, this whole idea of being able to know yourself requires, I feel this. This idea of being able to know yourself, I think, requires witnesses.
I was just about to say, yeah, requires community. Requires.
Yeah. Which,
yeah, go ahead.
Is like, I think that's emotionally exposing.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, it can be scary. It requires it though.
Oof. Yes, it does.
It's hard to be your own mirror and have to search yourself. And that's a good practice and reflection and just accountability. But a community is essential. Doing this isolated is not it. No. And there is an intimacy in a one-on-one relationship with God where he can reveal things to you. But
absolutely,
you're meant to do life. You're meant to do life with people. And that is huge.
Yeah. And I think you asked the question. It was a question that that we've talked about, like what stops us from being honest. And I think a part of that is because honesty does require community. It does require witnesses to be able to know yourself, to be able to reflect on yourself. I think some of the reasons why we can withhold some of that honesty is one, fear of judgment, fear of conflict.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think some of the other reasons, but I feel like those are two of the biggest ones. Fear of conflict and then fear of judgment. Because at the end of the day, we want to know that we're still going to be accepted and belong, and we're still going to be loved, right? Like that what I'm honestly experiencing does not create this distance between me and the community that I desperately need.
And it's hard work. It's worth it to do it sooner rather than later, rather than build up this suffocating feeling of burying your story, essentially. It's hard work to it's hard work to do that. It's hard work to not wake up every day and chase that immediate, just temporary peace. Oof. Let me just it's fine today, like whatever.
Yeah.
But it's showing in the fruits of your life, and it's impacting you, your work, your relationships, one way or another. But sometimes I think we choose the perceived short-term easy route of today. It's like, I'm good today. I'm good today. When in reality, it's not. There are things affected. It's hard work.
Yeah.
To go back and want to talk and uncover and process, and when you might not always get answers and sorries, and
that's what I was going to ask. What do you think makes it hard? And I think you maybe named a couple.
Yeah, you're not
always getting an answer.
Fear. Sometimes, I don't even want to go back and understand what happened because I'm still scared of it. I'm still scared it'll happen again.
Yeah.
I am terrified. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
I think just pain. I mean, maybe someone hurt you, like that man's story with his mom, and it hurts so bad. You just don't want to uncover it. You don't even want to look it in the eye. You don't want to. It's hard. It's a hard, worthy work, and it can take your life to the next level. It is hard.
Yeah. The story of the guy, right? Like going back, I think we as people, we love to avoid pain.
Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. Survival. Like you're just no, this hurts. No. Mm-mm.
And what I've learned through my process, and what I so try to empower people with, this is my whole vision and mission in life. You know what I mean? My mission in life is man, you are so much more powerful than you know.
You are.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
And what I mean by that is we can literally walk into, reflect on, think about the things that have caused us pain, the things that we are afraid of. We can go into it because we're not there anymore. And what I mean by that is a lot of us, and I'm talking about trauma now. I'm just going to bring it in. Trauma is like a real umbrella term for a lot of different things that we've been through in our lives, right? So we could literally, trauma has nothing to, well, let me not say nothing. That's so extreme. Trauma is not just necessarily the event. It's how it impacted you. Right? So sometimes people are like, well, I haven't been through trauma because I didn't go through that event. But that's not what trauma is.
Right.
Trauma is about how something impacted you.
Well, right? That's why the same thing could happen to different people.
Absolutely.
And they might not understand, but that was traumatic for you.
Yes.
Maybe it was light to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so how something impacts you, can create like traumatic responses, right, in your body. So this avoidance of pain is something that I think is a very, very common human experience. And I think the reason we do that is because it's traumatizing when we don't have, it can be traumatizing when we don't have understanding, when we don't have meaning, when we don't have community, when we don't have support, right? And so just going back to this, the thought that I was having, where did it go? Oh,
we're going to find it.
We are going to find it.
That's about community.
I think what I was saying was that it makes it hard. Because we feel in our bodies that we are still where we were when we experienced the pain. So for example, if we experienced something in childhood with our parent, we might have felt abandoned by them, neglected by them, criticized by them. And that experience of feeling all of those things stays with us in our body.
Wow.
So what ends up happening is that when we are in a similar situation today, years later, we're not remembering that. We're re-experiencing it.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Ugh.
This is why it's like, you can't think your way out of these things.
You're literally going through fight or flight.
Absolutely. Your body is reactivated as if what happened then is happening now.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's more evidence as to why it should not be done alone.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard to even be rational, be productive in a spirit of re-experiencing trauma.
But this is where I think being honest with yourself is so important to break out of that.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I can be honest with the fact that, and again, this is where I think it does require help, right? It requires somebody who knows that you're re-experiencing and that you're not just being too much, or you're not just being overly dismissive, or you're not just being like, this isn't necessarily something that you're actively choosing. This is something that you are re-experiencing, that the body is doing. And so being able to have a safe person and be honest with what you're going through is important. And having that person is important because they can help normalize and understand and validate what you're experiencing.
Yes.
But two, being honest about it helps you to move forward and move through it rather than move around it.
Yes. Because we'll go around it by just wanting to protect ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that's where being honest, transparent, and vulnerable is difficult because we're trying to protect ourselves.
Right.
At the core, at the very base level, we're constantly in, am I safe or am I
Fear is just the number one thing literally that comes to my mind. Like, and that is just ever present when I think of moments that I wanted to go around and not through.
Oof.
Fear. If I tell you how much this hurt me in the past, what if you do it? Well, I can't handle the thought. Even as I talk to you right now, I can think of examples and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel that again. I don't want to experience it again. And maybe this ties back to the love and the trust and the willingness to do relationship. That, honesty is needed.
Yeah.
It's hard work, but it's worthy work. It's how we can love each other and take relationships to the next level. But fear is like it's the thing in my mind that's like, stop. I'll run around every day.
Yeah.
to run around it. Sorry, nope.
Yeah. Fear. And this is the thing, right?
Pain, fear. Yeah. Fear of having that pain again.
Yeah. And I want to be kind to our fear in this moment.
Okay.
Because every emotion, including fear, is trying to help in some form or fashion. Fear is trying to protect.
Let me know. Yeah, I need this. Yes.
Right? Like fear is trying to protect. At the very core of it, fear says, there is danger. Let's get to safety. That's what it's doing. And so it's trying to protect you. This is where it's like, okay, I have to be able to identify emotions so I know what it is and what it's trying to do. But then I have to be able to also bring my mind into it and say, okay, but am I actually in danger?
Right.
That we have to be able to know both and connect both. Am I actually in danger? And two, if I am, this one is my favorite. If I am I equipped to navigate it?
Y'all, we need help. I can already tell you. That's so powerful. I go back to community again. Doing that on your own. Oof. No way.
No
way.
Stop it. Don't do it by yourself.
No. No way.
Oh. Yeah.
So acknowledging fear. Acknowledging, what's the second step? If you're actually in danger. So acknowledging the response of fear, what you're feeling.
Yeah. So name what you're feeling.
Name what you're feeling.
I'm feeling afraid.
Yes.
What does fear do? It tries to keep me safe.
Yes.
So 2, question, am I actually unsafe?
Yeah.
Am I actually in danger?
Am I actually unsafe? And then 3, am I equipped to navigate this?
Right? I'll give a very basic example in relationships.
Yeah.
My bread and butter here, okay? When I am sharing something emotionally with my partner, I'm being vulnerable, okay? We went from honest to transparent to vulnerability.
Yes.
I'm being vulnerable with my partner. And vulnerability feels vulnerable.
Yes.
So I am exposed emotionally.
Yes.
Okay. And so my partner, let's say that my partner minimizes that, dismisses it. It's not that big of a deal. This thing that I was being vulnerable about. Not that big of a deal. Move on. What do you think I'm feeling next?
Rejection, pain.
Right.
Wanting to retreat.
Yeah. So I'm feeling rejected. I'm feeling dismissed. I might feel overlooked. When have I felt that before? This is where we go back to, well, in my childhood.
Right.
Oof. In my childhood, my parents, this is all example, right? I could say in my childhood, my parents rejected me, or they dismissed me, or they emotionally neglected me. So now I feel like that same little girl.
Right.
That little girl who was unequipped. But I'm now the adult woman who is equipped. So I don't have to do the same thing that I did as a kid, which maybe as a kid I retreated, I went to my room, I was by myself,
Right.
I don't have to do that anymore because I'm not that little girl anymore.
Right.
I can do something different. Now, mind you, I think we do need to learn tools and things.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm not that little girl anymore, even though I feel like I'm in the same exact emotionally unsafe place.
And that's kind of why you say why we're so much powerful then.
So much more powerful now. Because we're not as... The way that I look at kids are truly at the mercy of the adults in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Truly. As adults,
right,
we have so much more power. We are equipped with so much more life experience. We're equipped with so much more enhanced thought processes. We're equipped with the ability to regulate our own emotions, even though we didn't know how to do that as kids.
Right.
Like, we're equipped with so much more. And if you're not, so for example, these things that I'm talking about, if you're not, this is where I think it's so important to get equipped.
Right.
Right.
I just thought of like, sometimes we'll say like, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not your fault at all that you experienced what you experienced, but the intentionality that you have to pursue community, pursue these tools is your responsibility if you want to live a fulfilled life.
Yeah. Oh, I love that word. Pursue it.
Yeah.
Pursue it. Absolutely.
Pursue it.
Because that's the thing, right? Like, relationally, we get stuck in those places. And again, if we work through that one, what am I feeling? Rejected, dismissed. Maybe there's another question in there. Where have I felt that before?
Right.
Right? Like, what is this bringing me to? What is it reminding me of? Like, who am I viewing? Am I viewing my partner? Am I viewing who was like that to me before?
Yep.
2, am I actually unsafe or in danger? And if my partner is not physically harming me,
right,
I may be emotionally unsafe.
Right. Yep.
And so, sure, let's say yes, I am emotionally unsafe in this environment. Now, 3, am I equipped to navigate that? And man, there are so many tools to be equipped to navigate it. But all of this starts with being honest about where you're at.
Right.
You can't get there without it.
Yeah, just you need that awareness. You need that awareness to, yeah. I'm just blown. You can't get there without it. You have to slow down, allow yourself to be aware of what you need, be able to communicate it. And maybe if you're watching, maybe the same thing that comes to your mind, but there's kind of that wild card of the other person.
Oh, absolutely.
No matter what, as you're navigating something already hard. Of being aware, being honest, and then attempting to go be vulnerable about it. There's this other card, this other person and all of their things and what they're trying to be honest about and work through. And it's like, how much balance and nuance and grace that has to take. When we're talking about extreme or dangerous situations, no. But in a potential mutual relationship, we're 2 imperfect people. How much love you have to have the courage to do that. And trust that you're working through and building. It's a dance. It's like all these instruments back to the jazz. It's a dance, truly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think that is the piece that makes it so risky. I use that term a lot because I think just at the very end of it, like at the very core of it, that's how we are. Am I safe or am I in danger?
Yes.
That's it. That's all I'm looking for. And so the fact that there's a whole other human being who's also going through all of this within themselves, it makes it so risky.
It does.
And yet, to be risk averse is to also be relationship averse.
Right. To not do relationship.
Yeah.
Or to not do it well.
Yeah.
It won't reach its fullest potential. It won't be fulfilling if you're not willing to take the risk.
Go ahead with the rhyme. If you're not willing.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Man.
Yeah. Are there any tools that we could direct, had high level tools when you're in maybe that internal process of being honest and vulnerable and equipping yourself? Like, what can you equip yourself with? Is it a book? Is it a practice? Is it?
Yeah. So number one, what I would say is like the number one tool is how you are relating to yourself when you're practicing your honesty and your vulnerability. So like, we could be honest and vulnerable, and if it doesn't go well, then we can start to be really critical. See, I should have never done that. That was so stupid of me.
Ooh.
Why did I even bother?
Right.
Right. And so now we get really critical with ourselves.
Right.
And so I think one, just internally, just having this like loving acceptance and compassion of like, I'm doing this hard thing.
Right.
And like, regardless of how it goes, like I'm proud of myself. I'm taking a step forward. I'm growing in that, right? Like
yes.
Treating yourself how you want that person to treat you after you've shared. You know?
Yes.
Like I think that's one really practical, like, man, be aware of how you talk to yourself when you're doing the hard thing.
Like you have a right to. You have a right to.
Amen.
Be honest and feel and be vulnerable. You have a right to treat yourself with dignity. I like that. Being aware of how you're thinking of you as you do this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The other thing I would say to that, the second one, is usually if you're going into something that is going to feel vulnerable, that is going to feel risky, especially with another person, is to pre-plan how you're going to take care of yourself afterwards.
Oh.
Regardless of how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Like, I'm about to do this hard thing, knowing what the amount of energy that's going to take out of your body.
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, because it's hard. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pre-plan. Like, what is something that you can intentionally do for yourself afterwards, knowing that you just exerted all this energy? Makes me think of when I used to go play softball back in the day.
Yeah.
What let me kind of give all my energy and whatever to that, like my motivation was like, I knew we were going to get pizza afterwards.
Turn up.
Regardless. We were going to get some pizza.
So you knew what was coming.
Yes. It's like a reward.
I think it's amazing practice for working through almost anything. You saying that.
Yeah.
When you're embarking on that honesty and vulnerability, and if you are in a honesty in the context of conflict, being able to prepare for that.
Yeah.
Not just the conflict and their response, but like how you are going to make sure that you're good.
Yeah.
And that you're able to repair and do what you need to do.
Yeah.
After. That's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. The one last thing I will say about honesty, just to kind of like wrap this up.
Yep.
Is that when we're talking about honesty, I think sometimes we can go from not voicing ourselves honestly to then voicing ourselves without restraint.
Oh, yeah.
Where we kind of get to the point where it's like, I'm just going to say whatever it is that I want to say. And if you've ever heard, well, I'm just being honest.
Right. Right.
Right. Like attitude and all, harshness and all, in consideration of like how that's going to come off to the other person. That's not honesty.
Right.
That's harshness.
That's something else. So keeping the fruit of the spirit, keeping kindness, you can still do all that. Using wisdom, knowing there's still a time and a place. And
still being
considerate. Yeah.
You may hurt that person.
Absolutely.
With what you say. And at the end of the day, there's a way to be able to do that lovingly.
Absolutely.
While still being honest.
Yep.
So just want to say you don't have permission to be harsh.
No.
Okay.
No.
But you have every right to be honest.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah. Oof.
That was good.
Yeah. Journal, think through that.
Yes.
Let us know what you think.
Let us know.
Love y'all. Bye.